What's up, guys? Update. I am finally back up. So basically, long story short, after I did the last video Friday evening during the storm, we had another really strong band, I guess kind of the Matthew's last hurrah, come rolling through and like not even 5 minutes, well, it might have been more than 5 minutes, I don't know. It was right after I uploaded that last video and got it up that, I mean, it started coming through and just really probably some of the strongest winds that we had had. And of course power went out and was out of power until last night. So all Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday, and up until last night, we were out of power. Hence the lack of videos. Couldn't even upload anything with my cell phone because phone coverage was really spotty. We'd get intermittent signal in and out, but not enough to, definitely not enough to upload anything or do anything like that. So just wanted to do an update. We didn't sustain any real damage to speak of. A lot of tree limbs down, got all those picked up. A lot of damage all around us, a lot of trees down and stuff, which obviously is to be expected. I'm on cup number 2 of this morning. I basically went, I think I got about 2 hours of sleep Friday night, maybe 2 hours of sleep Saturday night, and that's been about it. So got a little bit last night finally, but long story short, we're all okay. House is okay, everything's cool here. Getting back picked up and back at it. Wanted to give a little after action report, and I may have to do this on a couple of videos because I'm sure right now in my foggy brain I'm gonna forget stuff. So if I do forget something and I think of it, I'll do a follow-up or follow-up videos as necessary. I know I want to kind of go over some of the stuff that I used. I want to go over some of the stuff that worked, didn't work, lessons learned, because no matter how experienced you are, no matter how many times you've went through something, no matter how well prepared you are, no matter how much you've trained, etc., if you're not learning something every time you train, practice, or go through an event, then you're doing it wrong. Okay, you need to be learning all the time. There's always something you can learn. So we'll throw up some lessons learned for sure. Maybe not in this video. I might do that in a few days once the brain is rested up a little bit more. But let's see. Just real brief things. Had plans in place with a couple of friends beforehand, so we kind of had things laid out as to what we were going to do depending on what happened. That seemed to work pretty good, which was a good thing because there was definitely a lack of communication. It was hard for us to keep in touch, which, you know, I fully expected. I had hoped we would be able to stay in touch better than what we did, but again, I kind of expected not to be able to. But like I said, we did a little bit. Plans were in place, so that was okay. That's one of the things that I think we're going to try to, excuse me, actively pursue is better ways of staying in touch with each other. So that's on our agenda and to-do list. This just popped in my head, and I'm probably just going to throw things out there as they randomly pop into the cranium here. It was funny. My my youngest son and I decided the other evening to go for a ride on our bikes and just kind of check out everything. And you know, I'm in kind of a semi-rural area. We're not really rural, but we're not really suburban either. We're kind of like in between. So like our road's a dead-end road. You know, all the neighbors pretty much know each other and everything. And it was funny, as we were riding our bikes back up towards the main road, it was just like a symphony of generators running, because just about everybody on our streets got generators, and everybody's on wells and all that kind of stuff. So as long as everybody had their generators running, they had water and et cetera, et cetera. But it was just funny to hear all the generators running, and you think about so many neighborhoods that don't. And what was good about that is, A, most of my neighbors are at least to some level somewhat prepared, which is good, because that makes them less likely to be a threat to us if something happens, because they're able to, you know, take care of themselves to a point. I don't know to what extent, but I know at least initially they're good for a few days anyway. It's also good because and I'll just use just the generators as an example, with that many generators running, it makes each one less likely of a target for, say, looters or something, because there's so many of them. So it's like, which one do they choose? Versus if, say, I was the only an entire street or area with a generator running, you kind of get you get singled out and stand out a little bit. But with so many running, in fact, it was hard to tell where the noise was coming from. There were so many generators running. It was crazy in a good way. Of course, didn't have any problems with you know, looting or anything like that. Unfortunately, I know there were some areas that did, on a very minor scale. Just out of an abundance of caution and prior experience on my part of having dealt with looters in Hurricane Andrew, I did end up kind of staying on guard, as it was pretty much all night Friday night and all night Saturday night, just in case. You know, you never know. The one time you let your guard down is the one time something happens. So I know Friday night, probably about, I don't know, 2:30 in the morning maybe, my youngest son decided to stay up and keep me company, and was asking questions. And you know, anytime you can have a teachable moment, you try to teach them and train them little on-the-job tricks, as it was. And a couple of different times, I think was it two or three? I'm forgetting in my sleepless state, but I know 2 different times, about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, somewhere in that time frame, we had a car ride down the street. And again, we're on a dead-end street. There's no power. You're still on the tail end of the storm. And at that point, everybody didn't have their generators cranked up yet. So you've got this car, and it was different cars each time. Like I said, I know it was twice. It might have been 3 times, but we'll just say 3 for the sake of discussion. They were different each time. They rode down our street really, really slow in the dark, and they didn't live here, obviously, and turned around at the dead end and came back real slow, and then left. What were they doing? I don't know. Could have just been sightseeing, looking for damage at 2:30 in the morning when it's pitch black out in the tail end of a storm. But just a word to the wise, in case you're watching this and you're one of those people. It's not a smart thing to do to go riding around in areas where the power's out and there's potentially a lot of damage from a storm like that in the middle of the night. At least not in my area, because I know where I was at and what I was doing when I was watching you, and I found out after the fact that I wasn't the only one doing exactly what I was doing. So should you have attempted to do anything less than honorable, it wouldn't have ended well for you. I'm just saying. I think maybe there's a lot of people that don't have a lot of experience after storms like this. There's some middle-aged to older folks in my area that do. So some of you young bucks that want to think it's cool to get out there and do that, don't. It's not smart. It really isn't. Even if you're just sightseeing, it's just not smart. Okay, I'm just saying. Sorry, the phone's beeping at me in the background here. So, again, I know I'm all over the place rambling here, but you ain't got nothing better to do, right? So, from previous videos, my my little pistol here, I have a couple of specific rolls that I built this little pistol for, and one of the rolls I hadn't even thought about until Friday night. It just clicked with me. Pretty much all weekend, this was my constant companion, and I'll tell you quite honestly, it worked spot on, as if I had just made it specifically for that purpose. I really enjoyed being able to have this close by and it be as small and compact and unobtrusive as it was. I could still do things that I needed to do. Since the last video that I did add the ability to put this light on. This is just an older Surefire X300. I had this one laying around and wasn't making use of it. So guess what? It fits on here quite nicely. I can take it off when I'm not using it, which is how I like my lights to be. But yeah, new use for the AR pistol. After storm, after hurricane security device, right? Worked great. We'll do a follow-up video on that, which I was already planning on doing anyway, on the original uses that I built it for, and had some other things I wanted to incorporate. We're going to add that in too. Some things that came into my mind while I was keeping this with me over the weekend. What else worked? Let's see. I was out in the rain a lot Friday while the storm was coming in. Obviously y'all saw some of that on the video, some of it you didn't see, of how much I was actually out in it. Checking on things around the house, checking on some things with the neighbors. So I was in the wind and the rain a lot. So I tried to take the opportunity while that was going on to further try out some of my rain gear. Some of my rain gear that I know works, I used, and then I also switched up and tried a couple of new things. My old proper Adventure Tech level 6 jacket and pants. I've got an older video on those from about a year or so ago. Spot on, worked perfect, kept me bone dry, easy to move around or do things in, just really good. As with anything, you don't want to use a rain suit or any kind of rain gear in really hot weather because you're going to get just as wet underneath it from sweating as you would if you didn't have it on and it was raining on you, and you're just going to be hotter. So sometimes there's a case just to get wet. In this case, it wasn't, so it worked great. I did use the Snugpak patrol poncho that I've got. Tried it out for a little while. Works great as far as keeping you dry. Rain just rolls right off of it. But as has been my experience in the past with other ponchos, it's not my preferred rain method in a storm per se, just because A, the wind's just catching it and flopping it all over the place, and a couple of times it actually is flipping it up in my face and everywhere else and you couldn't see what you were doing. An actual jacket and pants works a lot better. It's a little cumbersome and bulky to try to move around and do things in. If you're just walking, not trying to do a lot of different tasks, and it's just raining straight down, say without a lot of wind and all that kind of stuff, the poncho will work great. Now, it's fully waterproof. There's nothing wrong with it as far as its construction and quality and waterproofness and all that. I'm just not a big poncho guy. If you are a poncho person, give the Snugpak one a look. It's definitely better than nothing if you need to stay dry. Catch is deciding, okay, do you need to stay dry or not? Again, making a note there to get with the guys, and we're going to do a wet weather dedicated video, okay, and kind of get a group consensus going on that for you. Wore my Danner waterproof boots, the waterproof Tanikas boots that I've got a video on. Those have got the Danner Dry membrane in them versus Gore-Tex like some of the others. They worked great most of the day. However, with as much standing water as we had, and as much as I was in and out in it, unfortunately they did end up soaking through by the evening time. So by later in the evening, I did end up getting water inside of them. Not over the top, it actually soaked through the seams and the membrane inside. It wasn't a lot, but it was enough to get my socks wet on the inside. That said, I could have still functioned in them if I had to. I wasn't walking in buckets of water, that sort of thing, but they did get wet inside. So while they are fairly waterproof, it appears they will soak through eventually if you keep them wet long enough. So, mental note made there. Was wearing my Covert Threads sand socks. Those work beautifully, really comfortable, and even when the water got in the boot and the socks got wet, I noticed that my feet didn't get cold, and it did a good job of keeping the moisture wicked away from my feet. So, and they dried out really, really fast after I took them off. So, note made there. Just another check mark for those Covert Thread socks. I really like those. Those just keep getting better and better the more I've used them over the past, year now. More of those on the shopping list for the future. What else? I'm going to have to sit down and make notes. Like I said, last night, once the power come back on, we had to get all the generators unplugged and get everything unwired from the generators and plugged back into the house and get everything locked back down and battened back up, and as back to normal as we could last night so we could get some sleep, and then finishing up everything this morning, kind of getting back into the routine. So by this evening we should be completely squared away, and tomorrow back at it, full steam as normal. I got stack of gear orders here to get made for folks, which I got to get on, but probably should not have tried to do it right now. You'll be seeing stitch lines going all kind of cattywampus instead of nice and straight, so we're going to keep working on this. So that's just a few little brief highlights. I want to sit down and make a list. I think this is a good video opportunity for me and the guys. We've already talked a little bit about it this morning. To sit down and throw out some thoughts to you folks, because I think we've got a lot we can pass on to you from our experiences that may be of benefit to y'all. Not that everybody in the country is going to experience a hurricane, but you could get similar effects from a bad thunderstorm, tornadoes, snow, ice storms. I mean, there's all kind of reasons why you could find yourself out of power. And I think that's probably the key thing here was, surviving everything without power, which is obviously a big deal. So important to focus on. You never know why something may cause the power to go out. So we're going to go over what we all did, what we learned from it, what we're going to change, what worked, what didn't work. And it's probably going to be so much we're probably going to have to break it up into a couple of videos, unless you guys want to watch a 2-hour non-stop video. And I know there's some of you that would. Unfortunately, I think there's some people whose attention spans wouldn't let them stay locked in that long, so we'll probably break it up into some smaller ones. But enough rambling for now. I'm going to finish this coffee and get back to straightening up and cleaning up some. Just want to let everybody know, still here, still in one piece, everybody's fine, house is fine. House was like a fortress, which is one reason I'm glad we got it and why we stayed here. So once I get the new stuff up, of course y'all will see it in the feed. If you got any questions, please feel free to ask. Because this is serious, and I know some people have already been asking some serious questions, if you're going to be a stupid troll or make 13-year-old comments, you're wasting your time. Just saying. All of you that commented on all the other videos, I've tried to go back and make sure I caught everybody, because I like acknowledging everybody's comments. If I missed you, it's not on purpose. I went through and got as many as I could. So you might have only gotten a thumbs up from me or something, but rest assured I did go back and try to read everybody's comments. So appreciate all those. Ask questions if you got them. We'll get some more up soon, guys. And as always, take care, stay safe, stay prepared, and we'll see you again here shortly.